The subject of UFOs has long been a topic of fascination and skepticism in equal measure. While countless accounts of strange sightings, mysterious lights, and unexplained objects in the sky exist, they are often met with dismissal or ridicule. For decades, UFOs were relegated to the realm of science fiction, their existence largely ignored or trivialized by mainstream media and government institutions. Yet a quiet truth has been simmering beneath the surface, one that is beginning to emerge from the shadows of secrecy. The phenomenon of UFOs is real, and many of the witnesses to these events are not only credible, but come from some of the most reliable and respected institutions in the world, military personnel. For those who have dedicated their lives to service in the armed forces, UFO sightings are not just a curious anomaly, but an undeniable part of their reality. These individuals, trained to be meticulous observers and highly skeptical by nature, are not prone to flights of fancy. They are the kind of people who deal with high-stakes situations, the kind who are trained to interpret data, handle complex technology, and make decisions based on hard facts. When such people report witnessing something they cannot explain, it forces us to reconsider what we know about UFOs and the reality of extraterrestrial phenomena. The history of UFO sightings, particularly those involving military personnel, is far from new. In fact, the first modern wave of UFO sightings began shortly after World War II, in the years following the end of the war. It was during this period that reports of strange flying objects began to flood in from all corners of the globe, and some of the earliest and most well-documented incidents involved military personnel. These early reports were sometimes dismissed as weather phenomena or the result of equipment malfunctions. However, over time, it became clear that these sightings were not just occasional glitches or oddities. They were real, they were recurring, and they were happening to highly trained individuals who had no reason to fabricate such stories. In the United States, the government's response to these sightings was complex and, at times, contradictory. On the one hand, the U.S. Air Force launched several investigations into UFOs, such as the famous Project Blue Book, which sought to catalog and explain UFO sightings. On the other hand, much of the information gathered was classified, with military officials often reluctant to acknowledge the reality of the phenomenon. This dual approach, investigation paired with secrecy, has left a cloud of uncertainty surrounding UFOs that continues to this day. It is in this environment of mixed signals and contradictory narratives that many former military personnel have begun to speak out about their personal UFO encounters. These individuals, once bound by oaths of secrecy, are now sharing their stories, and they are doing so with remarkable consistency and detail. Their accounts not only provide new insights into UFO phenomena, but also challenge the official narratives that have long sought to downplay or explain away such sightings. For instance, one of the most compelling aspects of these testimonies is the sheer variety of the experiences reported. Military personnel have witnessed UFOs in different locations, under different circumstances, and at various times. Some have seen objects hovering silently in the sky, defying the laws of physics. Others have encountered objects that seem to move in ways no known aircraft could possibly maneuver. These accounts come from radar operators, pilots, and officers stationed at air bases, people who are trained to interpret and identify objects in the sky. And yet, despite their expertise, many of these witnesses found themselves facing phenomena that defied all known explanations. In some cases, these witnesses described encounters with craft that moved at incredible speeds, far beyond the capabilities of any aircraft in existence at the time. Others reported seeing objects that appeared to defy gravity, hovering motionless before darting off at high speeds in an instant. Perhaps most chilling were the reports of military personnel being instructed to remain silent or even alter their accounts of what they had seen. The sense of secrecy and suppression surrounding these encounters is palpable, creating an air of mystery that has only deepened over time. The credibility of these witnesses is not in question for those who know them. Many of these individuals served with distinction, earning commendations and awards for their service. They are not prone to embellishment or exaggeration, and their accounts are grounded in their training and experience. Yet, despite the credibility of the witnesses, the military and government response has often been one of dismissal, or, at best, cautious acknowledgement. Official reports have typically downplayed the significance of these encounters, offering mundane explanations or simply stating that the phenomenon could not be explained. One reason for this reluctance to acknowledge the reality of UFOs may be rooted in the fear of what such an admission could mean. If the government were to fully embrace the reality of UFOs, it would raise profound questions about national security, extraterrestrial life, and the very nature of the universe. This would not only challenge conventional scientific thinking, but would also have massive implications for military strategy and international relations. In some cases, it might even expose classified military technologies that were never meant to be publicly known. The secrecy surrounding these encounters, then, may be as much about protecting military assets and strategic advantages as it is about denying the existence of extraterrestrial life. As we delve deeper into the stories of former military personnel who have witnessed UFOs, it becomes clear that the phenomenon is far from a simple curiosity. These accounts are not the ramblings of conspiracy theorists or people with overactive imaginations. They are the testimonies of men and women who have served their countries with honor, individuals whose observations of strange objects in the sky are grounded in the same training and attention to detail that they applied to their military duties. The existence of these witnesses and their accounts brings us to an uncomfortable reality. If we are to believe them, we must also contend with the fact that UFOs are real, and they have been part of our world for much longer than most of us are willing to admit. The mystery of UFOs is not merely a matter of science fiction or idle speculation. It is a phenomenon that has been observed by some of the most reliable and highly trained individuals in our society. It is a phenomenon that the military has been investigating for decades, albeit in secret, and it is a phenomenon that is only now beginning to surface in public discussions. As we embark on this journey through the testimonies of these former military personnel, we will explore not only the nature of their experiences, but also the broader implications of their stories. We will look at the history of UFO sightings, the government's role in investigating these encounters, and the various theories that have emerged to explain the phenomena. But most importantly, we will listen to the stories of those who have seen something extraordinary in the sky, stories that challenge our understanding of the world and our place in the universe. These testimonies are not just about UFOs. They are about human curiosity, our quest for knowledge, and our desire to uncover the truth, no matter how unsettling that truth might be. Through these stories, we are invited to peer into the unknown and question everything we thought we knew about our world. And as we will soon discover, the truth may be far stranger than we could have ever imagined. The role of the military in UFO investigations is one that has been shrouded in secrecy and controversy for decades. Since the first wave of modern UFO sightings following World War II, the armed forces of various countries, particularly the United States, have been both investigating and at times concealing the truth behind these phenomena. Their involvement in UFO encounters is not simply a matter of curiosity, but is tied to national security, technological advancement, and, in many cases, the desire to understand threats that could challenge the very fabric of military supremacy. For the military, UFOs represent both a mystery and a potential danger, a danger that could have profound implications on how warfare is fought and how intelligence is gathered. The history of UFO investigations within the military context can be traced back to the post-World War II era, when sightings of strange flying objects began to escalate. The first major incident that brought UFOs to the attention of the military occurred in 1947, with the now infamous Kenneth Arnold sighting. Arnold, a private pilot, reported seeing 9 crescent-shaped objects flying at incredible speeds near Mount Rainier in Washington state. His description of their movement led to the popularization of the term flying saucer, and soon after, UFO sightings began to surface across the United States and around the world. The military, at that point, began to take these reports seriously, not necessarily because they believed they were extraterrestrial, but because they posed an unknown threat to national security. In the years following Arnold's sighting, the U.S. government began to launch investigations into UFO sightings. The first official program, known as Project Sign 1948 to 1949, was tasked with studying UFO reports and determining whether the phenomena posed any military threat. The early findings were inconclusive, but the project's investigators noted that some of the sightings involved objects displaying flight capabilities far beyond what any known aircraft could achieve at the time. The project was short-lived, but it marked the beginning of the U.S. military's involvement in UFO investigations. It was followed by Project Grudge, 1949 to 1951, a more skeptical initiative that sought to debunk UFO sightings, attributing them to misidentifications of weather balloons, aircraft, or other mundane explanations. Despite the skeptical approach taken by Project Grudge, UFO sightings continued to increase, and the U.S. military could no longer ignore the phenomenon. This led to the creation of Project Blue Book in 1952, which became the most famous and comprehensive of all the UFO investigation programs. The project, which lasted until 1969, was tasked with investigating thousands of UFO sightings, collecting data, and attempting to find logical explanations for the encounters. While Project Blue Book dismissed many sightings as misidentifications, it was also responsible for documenting some of the most well-known and puzzling UFO cases. One such case was the 1967 sighting by U.S. Air Force personnel at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, where multiple witnesses reported seeing glowing objects hovering over the base. These objects were allegedly linked to a temporary shutdown of the base's nuclear missile systems, raising questions about the potential relationship between UFOs and military assets. Despite the large volume of sightings investigated, Project Blue Book officially concluded that there was no evidence to suggest that UFOs were a threat to national security. The project's final report, issued in 1969, claimed that the majority of UFO sightings were either misidentifications of natural phenomena or man-made objects, and that there was no indication that any UFOs were of extraterrestrial origin. However, this conclusion was met with criticism, as many within the military and UFO research community felt that important data had been suppressed or ignored. There were those who believed that Project Blue Book had been more about managing public perception than about finding the truth. As a result, UFO investigations within the military largely ceased, but the phenomenon itself did not go away. While official investigations by the U.S. military appeared to wind down after the closure of Project Blue Book, the reality was that the military's interest in UFOs remained, albeit in secret. Over the years, numerous whistleblowers and former military personnel have revealed that UFO investigations continued behind closed doors, often under the guise of other, more classified programs. One of the most well-known of these programs is the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP, a secret initiative that ran from 2007 to 2012, and which was revealed to the public in 2017. ATIP was specifically designed to investigate reports of unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, the military's new term for UFOs. The program was funded by the U.S. Department of Defense, and although it was officially terminated in 2012, many believe that it continued in some form after its declassification. The public revelation of ATIP was a watershed moment in the history of UFO investigations. For the first time, the U.S. government acknowledged the existence of a secret program dedicated to studying UFOs. The Pentagon released several videos showing military pilots encountering unidentified flying objects that defied conventional aerodynamic principles. These videos, now known as the Tic Tac and Gimbal videos, became widely circulated, sparking renewed interest in UFOs and UAPs. The videos showed objects moving at extraordinary speeds, making impossible maneuvers, and exhibiting capabilities far beyond those of any known aircraft. The release of these videos was a turning point, as it offered undeniable evidence that UFOs or UAPs were not only real, but were being encountered by highly trained military personnel. The release of the Pentagon videos also brought to light the fact that many military personnel had witnessed UFOs, and that these encounters were not isolated incidents. Several high-ranking officers, including former U.S. Navy pilots, came forward with their own stories of UFO sightings, adding credibility to the claim that the military had been investigating these phenomena for years. These testimonies from credible witnesses, who had no reason to embellish or fabricate their experiences, were crucial in shifting the narrative about UFOs from a fringe topic to one that was taken seriously by mainstream media and government officials. But the military's role in UFO investigations is not limited to just sightings and encounters. The military's interest in UFOs is also tied to concerns over national security. From the perspective of the U.S. military, UFOs represent an unknown, potentially hostile force. The idea that foreign adversaries could possess technology far more advanced than anything the U.S. military has is a frightening prospect. As a result, much of the military's UFO research has been focused on understanding the technology behind these unidentified objects and determining whether they represent a threat to national security. This is why UFO sightings are not only treated as curiosities, but as matters of grave concern. The possibility that UFOs could be foreign military technologies, whether from Russia, China, or another nation, has been one of the primary drivers behind the continued interest in UFO investigations. Additionally, there is the potential link between UFOs and advanced technologies that could change the nature of warfare. The ability of UFOs to defy gravity, to travel at hypersonic speeds, and to operate without conventional propulsion systems suggests that they may be using technology far beyond anything the U.S. military currently possesses. Some believe that these sightings are indicative of advanced experimental aircraft, either foreign or domestic, that the military is testing in secret. Others have speculated that UFOs may be linked to reverse-engineered technology from extraterrestrial sources, although this remains a highly controversial and speculative theory. In light of this, the military's involvement in UFO investigations has always been driven by a complex mixture of scientific curiosity, national security concerns, and a desire to maintain technological superiority. While many of the official reports have sought to downplay the significance of UFO sightings, the truth is that the military's interest in these phenomena has never truly disappeared. Even when programs like Project Blue Book were disbanded, military personnel continued to report strange sightings, and clandestine investigations continued to take place. It is only in recent years, with the declassification of materials and the testimony of former military personnel, that the true extent of the military's involvement in UFO investigations has come to light. As we move further into the modern era, the military's role in UFO investigations remains as critical as ever. With new reports of UAP sightings emerging regularly, and with the continued release of classified materials, it is clear that the mystery of UFOs is far from solved. What remains to be seen is how the military and government will handle the growing body of evidence that suggests we are not alone in the universe. Will they continue to suppress the truth, or will they eventually embrace the reality that UFOs are not just an anomaly, but a phenomenon that requires serious investigation and understanding? In the end, the military's role in UFO investigations is far from a simple matter of curiosity. It is a matter of national security, technological supremacy, and, perhaps, an understanding of our place in the cosmos. The mystery of UFOs is not just about what is flying in our skies. It is about what we, as a species, are willing to believe and accept. The testimonies of military personnel regarding UFO encounters represent some of the most compelling and credible evidence available in the ongoing search for the truth about these mysterious phenomena. When highly trained individuals, accustomed to observing and identifying various aircraft, air traffic, and natural phenomena, report sightings that defy conventional explanation, their accounts carry significant weight. These are not civilians with overactive imaginations or people seeking attention. These are the men and women who have dedicated their lives to serving in some of the most demanding and high-stakes environments imaginable. Their credibility as witnesses is rooted in their expertise, their professional backgrounds, and the manner in which they report their experiences with precision and detail. Yet, despite their reliability, their stories have often been ignored, dismissed, or actively suppressed. In this section, we will explore 11 detailed testimonies from former military personnel who have encountered UFOs firsthand, shedding light on their experiences and revealing the strikingly consistent patterns in their accounts. One of the most famous and widely discussed UFO sightings involving military personnel occurred in 1967 at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. This incident, which involved multiple witnesses, began when several objects were reported hovering over the base. Airmen stationed at Malmstrom, including radar operators and missile control officers, observed the strange craft with astonishment. According to the testimony of Robert Salas, a former U.S. Air Force officer, the UFOs were not only visible, but appeared to interfere with the operations of the base's nuclear missile systems. The missiles, which were on alert at the time, mysteriously malfunctioned, and for a brief period, the entire missile system was rendered inoperable. Salas, who was on duty at the time, recalls his disbelief as he watched the UFOs move silently in the sky. The incident, which remains unexplained to this day, was documented by several members of the military, yet it was officially downplayed by the U.S. government. Despite the importance of the event, the official reports made no mention of the UFO sightings or the temporary shutdown of the missile system. Salas and others involved in the incident have since been vocal in speaking out about what they experienced, calling attention to the fact that the government's response to such encounters has been one of secrecy and cover-up. Another powerful testimony comes from Captain Robert T. Bob White, a former U.S. Air Force pilot. In 1954, White was piloting an F-86 Sabrejet near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio when he encountered a UFO that seemed to be tracking his movements. According to White, the object appeared to be metallic and disc-shaped, with no visible wings or exhaust. It followed his plane for several minutes before suddenly accelerating to a speed far beyond that of the jet. White, an experienced pilot who had been trained to recognize various types of aircraft, was stunned by the object's sudden, impossible maneuvering. He attempted to engage the object by flying closer, but it effortlessly outran him, vanishing from view. White's account was initially met with skepticism, but over the years, he has remained steadfast in his belief that what he encountered that day was not of this world. His testimony is significant because of his professional background and the fact that he had extensive training in identifying aircraft. White's encounter stands as one of the earliest and most credible UFO sightings reported by a military pilot. In 1976, another U.S. Air Force officer, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, was involved in one of the most well-documented UFO incidents in military history, known as the Rendlesham Forest Incident. Halt, along with several other members of his team, witnessed strange lights and objects in the sky near the base in Suffolk, England. The incident occurred over several nights and involved multiple UFO sightings. Halt and his colleagues observed a triangular-shaped craft that hovered silently, emitting strange lights and moving erratically. According to Halt's testimony, the UFO appeared to interact with the military personnel as it moved closer to them and displayed capabilities far beyond any known aircraft. Halt, who later became the deputy base commander at the time, recorded the entire incident on tape, providing further evidence of the unexplained events. In the recording, Halt can be heard describing the craft's movements, as well as his growing concern about the implications of the encounter. The Rendlesham Forest Incident is considered by many to be one of the most credible UFO events ever documented, not only because of the number of witnesses involved, but also because of the military personnel's professional training and their willingness to go on record about what they saw. The testimony of Sergeant James Peniston, also involved in the Rendlesham Forest Incident, further strengthens the case for the reality of UFO encounters. Peniston, who was a security patrolman at the time, claimed to have had a close-up encounter with the craft. He reported seeing a craft that appeared to be a metallic, triangular object resting on the ground. The craft emitted a low hum and displayed lights that seemed to be scanning the area. Peniston approached the craft and, in a highly unusual event, claimed to have made physical contact with the object. He later reported having visions of strange symbols and a series of coordinates that seemed to correspond to places across the globe. Peniston's account adds another layer of intrigue to the Rendlesham Forest Incident, as his close encounter with the craft was far more direct than that of many other witnesses. His testimony, combined with the corroborating reports from Halt and others, forms a compelling case for the legitimacy of the incident. The experiences of these military witnesses are not isolated cases. Across the world, former military personnel have come forward with their own stories of UFO encounters. One such case comes from Colonel John Alexander, a former U.S. Army officer who was involved in classified defense programs and later became a leading figure in the study of paranormal phenomena. Alexander, who has a background in both military intelligence and weapon systems, has stated that he personally encountered a UFO while stationed at a military base in the 1970s. According to Alexander, the UFO hovered silently over the base for several minutes before disappearing at incredible speeds. Alexander's background and position give weight to his testimony, as he has spent much of his career studying military technology and has no vested interest in fabricating such an account. Another notable testimony comes from Lieutenant Colonel Ret. Wendell Stevens, a former U.S. Air Force pilot and author who has spent decades investigating UFOs. Stevens, who served as a fighter pilot and later as a military officer, has stated that he encountered multiple UFOs during his career. One of the most compelling incidents he described occurred while flying over the Mediterranean in the 1960s. Stevens and his crew observed a large, disc-shaped object moving at high speed and making sudden, erratic maneuvers. The object, which appeared to be under intelligent control, seemed to interact with Stevens' aircraft, following them for several minutes before accelerating to a speed that no known aircraft could match. Stevens has spoken extensively about these encounters, and his detailed descriptions provide valuable insight into the behavior of UFOs as seen by military personnel. The testimony of these men and others like them challenges the commonly held belief that UFOs are merely figments of imagination or the result of misidentifications. These are the stories of seasoned professionals, pilots, officers, and security personnel who have witnessed events that defy all known explanations. They speak with a calmness that comes from years of training and a firm belief in the truth of what they saw. The consistency in their accounts across time and geography suggests that something extraordinary is occurring, something that requires further investigation and open-minded inquiry. The experiences shared by these military personnel also raise important questions about the nature of UFOs. Are they simply advanced military technology, possibly from foreign adversaries? Or are they something more mysterious, perhaps even extraterrestrial in origin? The answers remain elusive, but the testimony of those who have witnessed these events firsthand is a vital piece of the puzzle. These accounts do not provide all the answers, but they serve as a powerful reminder that there is much more to the UFO phenomenon than meets the eye. For decades, UFO sightings were dismissed or ridiculed, and the stories of those who witnessed them were often ignored or suppressed. But as more and more former military personnel come forward with their accounts, it becomes increasingly difficult to deny that something truly extraordinary is happening. The experiences of these 11 witnesses are just the beginning. There are many more stories waiting to be told, and each one adds a new layer of intrigue to the ongoing mystery of UFOs. Whether or not we will ever have definitive proof of extraterrestrial life or advanced military technology remains uncertain. But one thing is clear. These witnesses have seen something that challenges the boundaries of our understanding, and their voices demand to be heard. The relationship between UFO sightings and government narratives has always been fraught with tension and contradiction. For decades, there has been a stark divide between the official stance of governmental bodies, particularly the U.S. military, and the testimonies of credible eyewitnesses, often military personnel, who have reported encounters with unidentified flying objects. This tension between the official narrative and first-hand accounts speaks to a larger issue of secrecy, national security, and public perception. On one hand, the government has consistently downplayed the significance of UFO sightings, offering conventional explanations, and sometimes even actively suppressing information. On the other hand, The testimonies of credible witnesses, many of whom are highly trained military personnel, paint a vastly different picture, one that suggests a phenomenon far more extraordinary than what has been publicly acknowledged. The military and government's approach to UFOs has evolved over the years, from initial investigations to the eventual disavowal of any serious concern about the phenomenon. The government's early attempts to address UFOs through programs like Project Sign and Project Grudge were focused on investigating reports and attempting to find plausible explanations. These programs were initially motivated by the belief that UFO sightings could be a potential threat to national security. During the Cold War, with the fear of advanced Soviet technology, it was seen as crucial to understand whether UFOs were merely misidentifications or whether they represented a more ominous, foreign threat. However, as these investigations progressed and reports mounted, the official stance seemed to shift from a focus on security concerns to a more dismissive approach that sought to minimize public panic. Perhaps the most famous government-led investigation into UFOs was Project Blue Book, which ran from 1952 to 1969. Officially, the project was designed to investigate UFO sightings, collect data, and determine whether these sightings posed a threat to national security. The project investigated thousands of UFO cases, yet its official conclusions downplayed the phenomenon, suggesting that most sightings were misidentifications of natural or man-made phenomena. In many instances, the project dismissed the idea that UFOs were extraterrestrial, attributing sightings to weather balloons, aircraft, or even human error. In fact, Project Blue Book's final report, released in 1969, claimed that none of the UFO sightings investigated posed any serious security threat or pointed to extraterrestrial origins. This conclusion, however, has been the subject of much skepticism. Many critics argue that the project was more about managing public perception and controlling the narrative than about honestly investigating the phenomenon. In the years following the closure of Project Blue Book, UFO sightings continued, but government responses remained largely the same. The U.S. military, while acknowledging the existence of unexplained aerial phenomena, largely dismissed the idea that these objects posed any real threat. The lack of government transparency and the continued silence around many of the most high-profile UFO sightings, especially those involving military personnel, only served to fuel public suspicion. Witnesses, such as military pilots, radar operators, and officers stationed at strategic military sites, continued to report strange objects in the sky, but their reports were often met with skepticism or outright silence. Eyewitnesses were frequently told to remain quiet about their experiences, and in some cases, their stories were dismissed or suppressed altogether. The combination of secrecy, inconsistency, and a lack of accountability from government agencies led to a growing distrust between the public and the government. The situation began to change in the 2000s, with increasing pressure from the public and the media for more transparency regarding UFOs. The release of previously classified documents and the disclosure of UFO-related information began to shift the narrative. The Pentagon's 2020 report on unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, which detailed sightings from military personnel, marked a significant shift in the official stance on UFOs. This report, which was the result of a multi-year investigation into sightings by military pilots, acknowledged that the phenomenon was real and that some of the objects encountered by military personnel could not be easily explained. The report, while not confirming the existence of extraterrestrial life, stated that the objects observed by U.S. military personnel displayed extraordinary flight capabilities, such as hypersonic speeds and the ability to maneuver in ways that defied known aviation technologies. This acknowledgement by the Pentagon was groundbreaking because it represented the first time in modern history that a government body had publicly admitted to the reality of UFOs without resorting to dismissive explanations or outright denial. The release of videos showing military pilots encountering UAPs, such as the Tic Tac and gimbal videos, further confirmed that these encounters were not the result of optical illusions, hoaxes, or misidentifications. In fact, the videos showed objects displaying flight capabilities far beyond those of any known aircraft, including maneuvers that defied the laws of physics as we understand them. Despite the release of this information, the government's stance on UFOs remains cautious and, in some ways, deliberately vague. While the 2020 report marked a shift in how UFOs are treated by the government, it still stopped short of acknowledging that these objects could be of extraterrestrial origin. Instead, the report focused on the need for further study and investigation into the phenomenon. This cautious approach speaks to the complex and sensitive nature of UFO sightings, particularly those involving military personnel. There are concerns about national security, the potential for panic, and the implications of revealing information that could challenge established scientific and cultural norms. Meanwhile, the media's treatment of UFOs has evolved significantly over the years. Early portrayals of UFO sightings in the press were often sensationalistic, focusing on the most bizarre and dramatic stories. UFOs were frequently depicted as the subject of wild conspiracy theories or as evidence of extraterrestrial visitations, with little regard for the credibility of witnesses or the quality of the evidence. Over time, however, the media landscape began to change. With the release of declassified government documents, the increasing number of credible eyewitness testimonies, and the acknowledgement of UFO sightings by military personnel, UFOs began to be treated with more seriousness in the media. In recent years, particularly following the release of the Pentagon's UFO reports, mainstream media outlets have started to cover UFOs in a more nuanced and balanced way. Programs on cable news networks, documentaries, and articles in reputable newspapers and magazines have begun to treat the phenomenon as a legitimate area of investigation, rather than as a fringe topic. This shift in media coverage has allowed for a more open and honest discussion of UFOs, encouraging the public to consider the possibility that the phenomenon may be far more complex than previously believed. At the same time, the media has also played a role in holding the government accountable, questioning why certain information has been withheld for so long and pushing for more transparency regarding UFO-related investigations. Despite the media's evolving approach, there are still elements of the government and media that seek to downplay the significance of UFO sightings. Some officials have continued to suggest that the U.S. military's encounters with UAPs could be the result of foreign adversaries testing advanced technology, rather than evidence of extraterrestrial involvement. The U.S. government has long maintained that national security concerns are at the forefront of UFO investigations, with a particular focus on whether these objects could be advanced technology from other nations. However, the growing body of eyewitness testimonies and the extraordinary characteristics of the UAPs observed by military personnel make it increasingly difficult to dismiss these sightings as mere technological misidentifications or hoaxes. The gap between the official government narrative and the accounts of military eyewitnesses is not just a matter of conflicting reports. It speaks to a broader issue of trust and transparency. Military personnel who have encountered UFOs have often been told to keep quiet about their experiences, and in some cases, their testimonies have been actively suppressed. This lack of transparency has fueled public mistrust of both the government and the media, as people begin to question why the truth about UFOs has been hidden for so long. It is clear that the UFO phenomenon, whether it involves advanced human technology or something far more extraordinary, represents a complex challenge for both the military and the government. On one hand, UFO sightings are a potential threat to national security, requiring careful investigation and monitoring. On the other hand, they represent an unexplained mystery that challenges conventional scientific understanding. The government's hesitancy to fully embrace the reality of UFOs, despite mounting evidence, speaks to the sensitive and often uncomfortable nature of the issue. The media's role in covering these developments has been crucial, as it has allowed for greater public awareness and scrutiny of the government's handling of the UFO phenomenon. As the debate continues, one thing is certain: the tension between the official narrative and eyewitness accounts will only grow as more information is released and more credible witnesses come forward. The question remains whether the government will eventually embrace the reality of UFOs and provide the transparency that many believe is long overdue, or whether the status quo of secrecy and denial will persist, leaving the public to grapple with the uncertainty surrounding one of the most profound mysteries of our time. As we delve deeper into the world of UFOs and unexplained aerial phenomena, UAPs, it becomes increasingly apparent that the phenomenon defies easy categorization. While the official government narrative tends to focus on the possibility of foreign technology or misidentified natural phenomena, there is an entire body of thought that suggests alternative and even paranormal explanations for these mysterious objects. These theories challenge conventional understanding and suggest that UFOs may be connected to dimensions, time travel, or extraterrestrial life, but they also raise uncomfortable questions about the nature of our reality. In this section, we explore the most prominent alternative and paranormal theories surrounding UFOs, offering insights into how they challenge traditional scientific thought and propose new ways of understanding the universe. One of the most prominent alternative theories posits that UFOs are not merely physical objects from another planet, but rather interdimensional entities that exist in a reality beyond our own. This theory suggests that these objects may not come from distant galaxies, but from alternate dimensions that coexist alongside our own, in parallel universes or alternate realities. According to this view, UFOs might be the result of beings or craft traveling between these dimensions, utilizing technology or methods that we do not yet understand. Proponents of this theory argue that the strange characteristics of UFOs, such as their ability to defy gravity, make abrupt turns at impossible speeds, or disappear and reappear in an instant, may be evidence of technology capable of traversing the boundaries between dimensions. This idea has its roots in both theoretical physics and ancient mythology. Quantum mechanics, for example, proposes the existence of multiple dimensions beyond the familiar three-dimensional space we experience daily. In this context, UFOs could represent craft from parallel universes, utilizing a form of travel that transcends the limitations of space and time as we understand them. The concept of interdimensional travel is not new. It has appeared in science fiction for decades, but recent advances in quantum physics and string theory suggest that such ideas may not be as far-fetched as once thought. The notion that UFOs could be interdimensional visitors rather than extraterrestrial spacecraft has gained popularity among some researchers who argue that the laws of physics might allow for such travel, even if our current understanding of the universe doesn't yet account for it. While this theory is grounded in modern physics, it also resonates with various paranormal explanations that have existed for centuries. Throughout history, there have been reports of strange, unexplainable phenomena that fall outside the bounds of traditional science. From ghost sightings to encounters with otherworldly beings, the supernatural world has long been a source of mystery and fascination. Some UFO enthusiasts believe that the appearance of these craft could be linked to a broader paranormal phenomenon, one that includes not only UFOs, but also other strange occurrences like poltergeist activity, cryptid sightings, and inexplicable natural events. They argue that the interdimensional hypothesis offers a way to link these disparate phenomena into a single coherent framework, suggesting that what we perceive as UFOs could be part of a larger, interconnected reality that exists just beyond our sensory capabilities. Another alternative theory that challenges the conventional view of UFOs is the idea that they represent time travelers from the future. According to this hypothesis, UFOs are not visitors from distant galaxies, but are instead human beings or entities from the future who have mastered time travel. These time travelers, armed with advanced technology, may be observing humanity at various points in history, studying our development or attempting to influence key moments in our past. The theory posits that the strange behavior of UFOs, such as their sudden appearances and disappearances, as well as their seemingly otherworldly technological capabilities, might be consistent with time travel technology. According to proponents of this theory, time travel could potentially allow these craft to travel both forward and backward in time, making them appear as if they are coming from the future or the past, depending on the perspective of the observer. This theory draws heavily from concepts in theoretical physics, specifically the idea of closed time-like curves and the possibility of traveling back to specific points in time. While time travel remains purely theoretical at this point, it has been the subject of intense study within the field of physics. Some theorists argue that if time travel were possible, It would likely involve advanced technology capable of manipulating the fabric of spacetime, perhaps by using wormholes or other exotic phenomena. In this context, UFOs could be viewed as physical manifestations of this technology, allowing their occupants to move through time rather than space. The idea that UFOs might be time travelers from the future offers an intriguing explanation for the mysterious behavior of these craft and raises fascinating questions about the potential consequences of altering the timeline. Another paranormal theory suggests that UFOs are manifestations of consciousness, perhaps appearing as a result of human thoughts, dreams, or collective psychic energy. According to proponents of this view, UFOs could be a projection of the collective unconscious, a shared mental landscape where human beings tap into a deeper, more universal level of reality. This theory has its roots in both psychology and the paranormal, particularly in the field of parapsychology, which studies the interaction between mind and matter. Some researchers suggest that UFO sightings may be the result of a mass psychic experience, in which large numbers of people, often in a heightened state of awareness or fear, collectively manifest strange, otherworldly visions. This theory draws upon the work of Carl Jung, the renowned psychologist, who proposed the idea of the collective unconscious. According to Jung, there are universal archetypes and symbols that reside in the unconscious mind of all humans, and these archetypes can manifest in dreams, visions, and even shared cultural myths. UFOs, in this context, could be seen as a modern manifestation of these archetypes, symbols of the unknown, of fear, curiosity, and the human desire to explore the unknown. The idea that UFOs could be projections of collective consciousness suggests that these phenomena may not be physical objects at all, but rather psychic manifestations of humanity's deepest fears and desires. If this theory holds any weight, it challenges the very nature of reality itself, suggesting that perception and consciousness may play a far more significant role in shaping our understanding of the universe than we have ever realized. A further twist on this paranormal angle proposes that UFOs are not just manifestations of human consciousness, but are a form of extraterrestrial or interdimensional intelligence that communicates through subtle means. This theory, often referred to as the non-physical intelligence hypothesis, suggests that UFOs might be part of a larger consciousness or intelligence that exists outside of our physical universe. These entities, which may not be bound by the limitations of space and time, could be communicating with humanity in ways that are difficult for us to comprehend. Rather than using physical spacecraft, these beings might be utilizing thought forms, psychic energy, or even direct mind-to-mind communication to interact with us, presenting UFOs as a kind of vehicle for communication rather than transportation. The non-physical intelligence theory also connects to the growing interest in consciousness studies and the idea that reality itself is a construct of perception. Some proponents of this theory believe that UFOs, in all their strange and unexplainable variety, could be a means of connecting with higher consciousnesses or entities that exist beyond the physical world. This approach links UFO sightings to spiritual experiences and suggests that these encounters might represent moments of transcendence, where the boundaries between the physical world and the non-material realm blur, allowing us to glimpse a greater truth about the nature of existence. As we examine these alternative and paranormal theories, it becomes evident that UFOs challenge the very foundations of what we know about the universe. Whether these phenomena are interdimensional travelers, time travelers, psychic projections, or something else entirely, they push us to reconsider our understanding of reality. They invite us to think beyond the conventional boundaries of science and explore the possibility that the universe is far more mysterious and complex than we have ever imagined. The very fact that these theories continue to gain traction, despite the lack of concrete evidence, speaks to the profound impact that UFO sightings have had on human consciousness. In the absence of clear answers, these theories offer a way to explore the unknown and consider the possibility that the truth may be far stranger and far more wondrous than we can comprehend. UFOs have not only captured the imaginations of individuals, but have become an enduring element of modern culture, shaping our collective consciousness and influencing societal beliefs, fears, and aspirations. The phenomenon has permeated every aspect of society, from politics to entertainment, and has given rise to a subculture that blends scientific inquiry with speculative fiction, spiritual exploration, and a fascination with the unknown. The way in which UFOs are perceived in contemporary society is not only a reflection of the sightings and encounters that have occurred over the years, but also the cultural narratives and societal shifts that have taken place in parallel. The portrayal of UFOs in the media, especially in films, television shows, books, and news coverage, has contributed significantly to the public's understanding and interpretation of these phenomena. In turn, societal and cultural influences have shaped the way UFOs are discussed, perceived, and understood. The history of UFO culture begins in the post-World War II era, a time of significant technological and social change. The 1940s and 1950s saw the dawn of the modern UFO era, with the infamous Kenneth Arnold sighting in 1947, which popularized the term flying saucer, followed shortly by the 1947 Roswell incident, which was widely reported as a UFO crash. These early events set the stage for the broader cultural shift that would follow. The 1950s were marked by a surge in UFO sightings, which coincided with a rise of Cold War tensions and fears of technological advances that might be beyond the reach of Western powers. The widespread reports of strange objects in the sky were viewed by some as signs of extraterrestrial life, while others believed that these sightings were manifestations of advanced military technology, either from the Soviet Union or, later, from the United States itself. During this time, UFOs became a central theme in popular culture, with many books, movies, and radio programs exploring the possibility of life beyond Earth. The 1951 film The Day the Earth Stood Still, one of the most iconic sci-fi films of the era, presented a narrative that was grounded in the anxiety of the time. It featured an alien visitor, Klaatu, who comes to Earth with a warning about the destructive nature of humanity. The film reflects Cold War fears of the potential for annihilation, as well as the hope for peaceful contact with extraterrestrial beings. Similarly, the popular radio program Lights Out in the late 1940s and early 1950s explored themes of alien encounters, although often from a more suspenseful and sinister perspective. These early depictions of UFOs in media played a significant role in shaping public perceptions of UFOs as both a potential threat and an avenue for exploration. The fascination with UFOs reached new heights during the 1960s and 1970s, as UFOs became more integrated into the collective consciousness. A key turning point was the release of Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 1977, a film by Steven Spielberg that portrayed an uplifting, hopeful vision of human interaction with extraterrestrials. The film presented UFOs as a means of connection and communication, rather than invasion or fear. The portrayal of UFOs as peaceful beings opened up new possibilities for thinking about extraterrestrial life, with the idea of mutual understanding and curiosity replacing the fear-driven narratives of earlier years. This film helped solidify the image of UFOs as a symbol of mystery, wonder, and the potential for a grand cosmic connection. As the 1980s and 1990s unfolded, UFOs became increasingly linked to conspiracy theories, particularly those surrounding government cover-ups and secret military projects. The X-Files, a television series that ran from 1993 to 2002, capitalized on this fascination by blending the supernatural with government secrecy. The series explored UFO sightings, alien abductions, and secret government operations to hide the truth from the public. The show became a cultural touchstone, giving rise to a new generation of UFO enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists who believed that the government had been hiding the truth about extraterrestrial life for decades. The X-Files tapped into widespread paranoia and mistrust of authority, reflecting the growing public interest in alternative explanations and the belief that official narratives were often incomplete or deceptive. The success of the show further cemented UFOs as a key element of popular culture, particularly in terms of how people understood the relationship between government secrecy and the unknown. In addition to film and television, UFOs have also had a significant influence on literature. Authors like Arthur C. Clarke, Philip K. Dick, and Whitley Strieber, whose works explore themes of alien encounters and government conspiracies, have helped to shape the literary landscape surrounding UFOs. Strieber's 1987 book Communion is perhaps one of the most influential works in the genre, recounting the author's own experiences with alien abduction. Strieber's book not only brought UFOs and extraterrestrial encounters into the mainstream, but also contributed to the popularization of the idea of alien abductions as a widespread phenomenon. The book's success spawned a series of follow-up works and helped fuel a larger cultural conversation about the possibility of extraterrestrial life and the potential implications for humanity. UFOs have also played a significant role in shaping contemporary religious and spiritual movements. The idea of alien contact has often been linked with questions about the nature of consciousness, the existence of other forms of life, and the broader purpose of humanity. Some UFO enthusiasts and spiritual groups have embraced the idea that UFOs are not simply craft from distant worlds, but symbols of a greater, transcendent reality. In these circles, the sighting of UFOs is often viewed as a form of spiritual awakening or a message from higher beings. These beliefs have led to the formation of various UFO-related religions, such as the Church of Scientology, which incorporates extraterrestrial concepts into its teachings. The influence of UFOs on spiritual and religious movements reflects the ways in which the phenomenon has become intertwined with broader questions about existence, purpose, and our place in the universe. The portrayal of UFOs in popular culture has also influenced the ways in which people view government involvement in UFO investigations. In recent years, as the U.S. government has declassified documents related to UFOs and admitted that military personnel have encountered inexplicable phenomena, the lines between fiction and reality have become increasingly blurred. The 2017 revelation of the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program (ADIP), which studied UFO encounters by military personnel, led to a renewed public interest in UFOs and UAPs. The subsequent release of videos showing military pilots interacting with unidentified flying objects only added fuel to the fire, confirming that the government had been investigating these phenomena for years. The connection between popular culture and government disclosure has become evident in how the media covers UFOs. What was once considered a fringe topic, relegated to science fiction, is now a subject of serious discussion among politicians, military officials, and the general public. Today, UFOs continue to be a central theme in both popular media and public discourse. The ongoing debates about the potential existence of extraterrestrial life, the implications of UFO sightings, and the role of government secrecy in UFO investigations reflect the profound cultural impact of this phenomenon. As the media continues to cover the U.S. government's investigations into UAPs, and as more whistleblowers and former military personnel come forward with their own accounts, the cultural influence of UFOs is only likely to grow. The increasing acceptance of UFOs in the mainstream consciousness, coupled with the ongoing revelations about government involvement, has prompted a shift in how UFOs are perceived. Once relegated to the realm of science fiction and conspiracy theory, UFOs are now taken seriously by many individuals, including scientists, politicians, and military personnel. This shift in perception speaks to the power of culture in shaping our understanding of the unknown. As UFOs continue to be discussed in films, documentaries, books, and news outlets, the public's curiosity about these phenomena only deepens. The question of whether UFOs represent a new chapter in human understanding of the universe, or whether they are simply an extension of the age-old human desire to explore the unknown, remains an open one. Ultimately, the cultural influence of UFOs is a reflection of humanity's fascination with the unknown, the mysterious, and the unexplained. From early encounters to modern-day investigations, UFOs have become a symbol of both our fears and our hopes, an invitation to explore the boundaries of our understanding and the possibilities of what lies beyond. The role of popular media, literature, and spiritual movements in shaping this narrative has ensured that the UFO phenomenon remains a topic of endless fascination, inspiring generations to wonder, are we alone? Or are we just beginning to uncover the truth about the universe's greatest mystery?